Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in for another episode. So before we get into this, I just wanted to pay respects to my uncle who died November 10th last year, which was 2019. Very sudden, out of nowhere, died racing, which is pretty damn awesome if you ask me. But he is not like he was burned up or anything crazy. He just he just stopped. He didn't feel well, pulled into the pit. Crew got to him. Apparently, from my understanding, by the time they got to him, he was already unconscious. I personally think he was already gone, but life signs, of course, say something else. Vital signs, excuse me. So my uncle Timothy George, MD, if y'all feel like looking him up, which I hope you do. Very inspirational, extremely smart, extremely loving, cared about everybody, his family, his friends, the patients that he had. He was a pediatric neurosurgeon, which in itself is an amazing feat for any family. But he treated his patients like they were his own family. He was a very special individual. I know my Aunt Roz and my cousin TJ and my cousin Kev and my little baby cousins and everything, the whole George family, we all miss him, all of his friends, all of his patients and their families. I just want it to be known that Aunt Roz, TJ, Kev, our love is always with you. To the patients that he's had, our hearts, my family's hearts are with you. Keep pushing on. And I just wanted to say this too about him, which I didn't find out until his funeral. So there was a patient. I'm not going to say her name just because I don't know how she feels about it. But he did, I believe at the time, and I could be getting this wrong. I don't think I am, though. He did 40, I'm going to say 3. Sorry if I got it wrong. He did 43 of her 60 surgeries, her brain surgeries. So he actually, there was a young baby. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the father or the family lived next to him. And the family didn't even know that he was a neurosurgeon or a pediatric neurosurgeon. And I guess when he had to figure it out, he asked everybody he could. This is the father we're talking about. He asked everybody he could. And they all said my uncle, which is crazy because, once again, that's his neighbor. So it shows how much of a small world this world really is. We lost somebody very important to this planet, period. But yeah, so like I said, to the rest of my family, the George family, just know I love you. And, this is hard, but he's always watching us. He's always taking care of us, even when he's not taking care of us. Because we all know that was his MO. It was always looking after his family. So Uncle Tim, we love you. We miss you. We thank you for everything you've done for us. And even though you're not here, everything you will continue to do for us, because even though your physical form isn't here, your effect on this world still is. So I miss you. I love you. And without you, I couldn't be this right here, the council of commentary, the four corners of commentary, my whole drive. I don't no offense, Mom, but I don't think this would truly exist without you. So I love you, Unc. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this edition of the Council Commentary Podcast, Four Quarters of Commentary. I am the Big Stretch, and our topic for today is mental health. And not just our experiences with mental health, but experiences that we've observed, not only in the system, but regarding to ourselves and each other. Anybody want to start just to get a good grasp on their experiences, or maybe I should explain what mental health essentially is, well-being of, not only the mind, but, I guess what the metaphysical would call like the spirit, what you feel inside, your emotions, mental health being, what you feel on the inside and how it impacts others around you. And issues of mental health, um, especially in minority communities, can often be stigmatized and often be misunderstood. For example, if you go see a therapist or you need therapy for some reason, that does not make you mentally ill. Doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make you different in any way, shape, or form. What it is that you, in some cases, and when I say some cases, I want to stress, it's not an absolute. In some cases, you need help processing feelings. You need help understanding thoughts, and the job and the role of a mental health practitioner is to ease you along in that process. It's a process in which the mental health practitioner you're with, you walk in together. It's a process of equal sharing and equal benefit, if you will. The mental health practitioner is in some respects just as for lack of a better term, blind, that walking into a situation along with the client, the person with the mental malady, if you will, just to make sure there's a great understanding here. I myself, I am a person who works in the mental health field. I've recently graduated with my master's in social work, and I've worked with individuals who've had serious mental illness and severe mental illness as well. So it's not an easy situation. It's not an easy field to talk about. It's not an easy situation to adequately explain. It's one of those situations, not necessarily that you need to be in it to explain it, but it's a different dynamic on both sides of the coin, being the practitioner and being the client. Um, Anybody here want to interject with any thoughts they have on mental health and system or anything, or things that they've observed in mental health settings or in mental health field?
I think I think when it comes to mental health, it's so many layers, a lot of layers
Absolutely.
to like unravel, so many layers to to just unpack. Like it's really so much, and it's like I'm not saying I can't speak for everyone. Like I know there's some people that I know that probably have dealt with, they have like their own, like, it could start from the family, within the family, just generate from generational trauma that they've been dealing with, from even to, like, a lot of traumatic events that just they went unchecked. They weren't like packed at the very moment, or it just was always. So that's like it just kept on weighing them down to the point where now is, I guess, when you get older, you just it's just starting you just start spiraling. And I think sometimes, especially in our community, just especially us in the Black community, we have a bad habit. It's a bad habit of, instead of focusing on the problem at hand at the moment, we tend to just sweep it under the rug, or we don't we it's like we're afraid to just.
It's like
Yeah,
you
you
bottle your
bottle it
emotions
up,
up,
you bottle
Hmm.
emotions,
or
but
your thoughts.
you're afraid to just ask for help,
Right.
because again, we're like we're always being depicted as a strong people, but we're also depicted as prideful people. We're always prideful, and pride and ego. I would even say that, I know for me, especially, pride was a big
Mm-hmm.
um
A hurdle.
hurdle for me.
Yeah.
It was a big obstacle for me, because even then, like I said, I've been dealing with a lot of traumatic. experiences, dealing with a lot of just a lot of physical pain or mental pain in general, just dealing with it since I was a child, since I was a kid. So it's like, you know, even now as an adult, it's hard. It's still hard for me to like even reach out or like ask for help or like, you know, vent, because, you know, a lot of times, especially like it's hard when you want to vent, because it's like you can't really explain it. It's hard to really explain how you're feeling sometimes, especially to others where you feel like, you know, they're not going to get it. You already have like this preconceived notion in your mind where it's like, oh, they're not going to get it. They haven't experienced it. Because, you know, you always hear that saying, if you haven't experienced it, you're just not going to get it.
Right.
So it's like when you have that notion in your mind, you don't want to keep being repetitive and keep explaining the same thing over and over and over again. But then, you know, after a while, I think what I'll even like open up. I think what had made I've always told everyone, you know, I've struggled with depression. I've struggled with anxiety. I think what made it like come out even more was I knew when it was the loss of my grandmother, like, and I always go in depth with it. Just like now, before, like when anytime I spoke about my grandmother, you know, it always got me emotional, always got me like broke me down. But I think it was just, you know, from, like I said, my grandmother, she was sick for a while. And then from her being sick for a while to then like going to like a whole year where she was like, she'd be in, like, before she had to go to the hospital, she'd be in the hospital like once every like 3 to 6 months. And then now she was in the hospital almost every month. It was like that 1 year it was that one. Yeah, it was in the hospital every month. It was from every month to now to every month to every 2 weeks to literally she was in the hospital every week. And when we did everything, going from a nursing home back to the hospital, back to this, and you know, finding out she had pulmonary hypertension, and for her to realize that they told her that news and she just couldn't sit with it, and they like basically telling her she had to be on like, you know, oxygen tank for the rest of her days. And it's like, you know, one minute she's okay with it, but then it just seemed like the anxiety, depression just came and hit like waves for her out of nowhere, and it'd be like give up. And you know, it was tough to watch, because you know, it's tough to watch because, you know, this is someone that I always considered like, you know, a superhero who basically she's the reason I'm who I am today. And to see such a strong individual like have this moment of weakness and just with so much self-doubt on herself, it took a toll. And then it's like, you know, I couldn't even take the pain away. Couldn't take the pain away, and I always felt guilty about it. There was always times where I had to either go, while I was even working on my undergrad, I had to go to school, I had to go to work, and when I really just wanted to spend all the time with her. And even until the day that she had passed, even to the day where she, like, you know, she said, you know, she went with the option to just go and get a tube, put a tube down her throat to say like, oh, you know, give me the tube. Maybe I'll recover from that. Like, in my mind, I knew she wasn't coming home after that. I knew she wasn't coming home in my mind, but it's still, part of me was still hoping, all right, she's going to be okay. She'll make it out of this. And I think what made it so much, what really is like, that started me having to face reality. And when that happened, I still remember it, like, you know, mom went home, sister went home, everybody went home, and I stayed, because I said, you know, I'll just stay until she gets out of procedure. I'll stay and see what happens, and then I'll be out. And when the doctor came and told me that, you know, they did everything that they could, but her body was just, it's, after everything, you just couldn't, there's nothing more that can be done, you know. And all I asked them was how long, and they just told me that like they don't even think she's gonna make it into the morning. That was when, and mind you, this happened in 2018. That was when I really had to like be met with reality. I had to face that reality. It's like, this is like my best friend. This is someone who was like even though I do have my mom still in my life, my grandmother was always, I said, was like, to me, my real mom to me. Like, that's how close we were. We were literally like this tight. And I was just like, yo, she's really like, she about to be out. She about to be gone. And and it had to be up to me to be the one to decide who's to pull the plug. And I ended up calling one of my closest friends, one of my best friends, shout outs to, you know, everybody knows her now as Miss Truth, but Styles to Nothing But the Truth, to her show. But I called her. She's the only person I called. And she came from all the way from her house over here in Williamsburg, all the way to New York Presbyterian Methodist to just spend the time with me, and like had to even convince me that, I have to just let it go. And I had to sit there and say, like, even they called my mom, I told her, and I said, like, that it had to be up to me to be like, I got to pull the plug.
You had to come to terms with it.
Yeah, I'm not even, couldn't even say I came to terms with it, because I still wasn't, even in that moment, I wasn't facing it.
Right.
But I had said, all right, I'll do it, but I'll do it when everybody's here in the morning. I said, I'll give it to the morning, get where family's all around, and then we'll do it. And, and I stayed that whole night. That was probably the longest 24 hours, because I never went home that night. I stayed by her bedside, like tube down her throat, like she's literally handcuffed, chained to the bed, because they even said, like, when they put tube in, she was ready to take it out. She was ready to pull it out, because it was like, they had to chain her down. And I knew she was already like in that induced coma, and she wasn't waking up. I always keep saying this, and I literally sat there the whole time, like, apologizing and saying that I was sorry that I just wasn't able to have that much time with her. All the times that I wanted to spend more with her, I couldn't do it, because it's either I had to go to work or I had to go to school. And much as I hated it, she always kept on pushing me to, like, just go, because she knew, like, she didn't want me to just sit here and, just hold over her, just like mourn it, like, just like sit here and feel sorry for her, so to speak. And she even, like, held her hand. She woke up that her eyes opened that one time. I just always saw that as a reflex. Everybody else will sit here and say that, oh, she heard me. I'm just like, it's a reflex. I'm like, at that point, I was trying to come to terms with, like, I'm really about to lose my only, like, actual best friend, like my closest best friend left. I'm really about to lose this part of me, and I have to learn how to live without her here.
Yeah.
And it's, even to the day, even to the morning that they came, they said, all right, you ready? And I was like, let it happen. Before they just touched one machine, she flatlined. Like, I literally sat here and watched my grandmother flatline in front of me. And to that day, like, that moment had haunted me for almost 2 years straight, just haunted me. And it literally caused me to, like, I started having anxiety attacks. I was waking up from night terrors, waking up in cold sweats. I literally was spiraling, because it's like, that was just so much on me. And I wasn't ready to face it. Like, I really need to, like, try to get control of it. Like, it's really, like, because I was, like I said, I really saw myself, like, I really couldn't live without my road dog, like, right next to me, like, or even calling me. Like, I went from somebody who called me every single day to my phone barely rings.
Right.
So it was so taxing on my mental health. Like, I can't recall how many times that I was ready to just say, I'm done and I'm about to be out.
It's an illustration of a lot of especially like in my limited practicing experience, like a lot of things that happen in that course of time, major change, lack of control over that change, the grief that comes with it.
And I guess like they call it, they always call it the 5 stages of grief. I felt like, it was that, but it also was like an added feature. It's like, I've said it many times before. You feel like you are falling off a cliff and you're just trying to grab on a ledge, and you still can't seem to grab it, or you're walking through a sea of blades. You're just walking through a sea of, or like a field of blades that just keep cutting you from all over. And it's not deep cuts.
No control.
It's not deep cuts, but you still feel them, and you just can't control it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem, is like, when you run out of control, I mean, and granted, I know, they have the medication that's available for people who need it, but I know some of us are afraid to even think of even taking medication, because you don't want to get addicted to it.
Want to get addicted,
so
it is
dependent.
Medication also in some medications cases can change brain chemistry.
Right.
There's effects that come with, like, weaning down and scaling down from those medications as well.
Right.
It's a very, very difficult situation to
Right.
be in, especially if you have no experience with
Right.
it. But a lot of what you just said like ties into something I just want to mention really quick, which is called allostatic load. And allostatic load is a term which is basically explaining like the amount of stress and grief and adverse effects we suffer to our mental health and how long we can handle. It's like the piling on of different emotions at one time adds to your allostatic load. It's like a huge sack that you carry with
Right.
worries and
Right.
stressors and griefs and insecurities and things of that
Mhm.
nature, and it just takes its toll on you. That's why it's called an allostatic load, because it's a mental load. Like, it's a sack that you can't see. Somebody could be walking down the street all smiles, but never know what that
Right.
person's allostatic load is
Right.
like each and every single day. So, Brandon, just want to say that I'm sure your grandmother is incredibly proud of the
Absolutely.
young man that you've turned into. And you know I just want you to know that we're proud of the young man that we know and,
Yep.
and sit with us today.
Mhm.
You
For
are
sure.
you are a very, 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 very personable individual, and I'm very, very proud to call you my friend and brother as well.
I appreciate that, y'all. I mean,
Always, man.
it always it like I said, like it feels good to always hear that, but it's like it's always, there's just that it's always that like
It's in the
that
back of your mind.
in the back of your
Yeah,
mind, you
I
just
definitely
it's that
understand.
it's, it's that sense of
you just feel it. It's just like,
it's that sense of doubt.
yeah, it's the doubt will
Yeah.
always be there, but it's just like, the love is there, but it's like, I think it's just also it's pride. It's just like,
Yeah.
yo, you don't want to keep feeling like
So,
this, but you want it
Right.
to stop, but you
Right.
don't know how to make it stop.
Mhm.
And you're trying to do everything you can, but it just
just to touch on that pride aspect also, and then I guess I'll go into mine a little bit.
Sure thing.
yeah.
Black men, especially,
Mhm.
we are, and you touched on it earlier, Q, that
Mhm.
we are built, or we are supposed to be built to hold everything, to keep our chin up no matter what happens, um to 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 carry that load,
Yeah,
pretty much.
society often teaches us, especially as minority men, that
Yeah.
we can't really show signs of weakness.
Yeah.
Right,
We're supposed
As
to
exactly.
be.
soon as you
Exactly.
cry,
Yeah.
you
It's a
get
problem.
they say if they say you cry, they be like, oh, don't cry, you're not a girl, don't
I
be a girl,
think
don't be a bitch, like don't
that's
cry.
funny.
And it's just
You
like,
know
Right.
what? And
yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that, because the term "man up,"
yeah,
they say that to ladies, they say that to girls, women, men, boys. Like, I think that term should be like just unwritten from the English language,
it should.
because man up means to suck it up and
Yeah.
move forward.
I think
Now, don't get me wrong, moving forward, I'm all for it.
right.
But sucking it up, all it does, and this is speaking from personal experiences, I have always been one to bottle up my emotions, always. It I talk to everybody, and I always wonder if I get it from my dad, maybe my mom also, but excuse me, to hide, my mind state, or to hide, um if there is something wrong with, my health, or whatever the case may be. um I I think so. Once again, like I said, I have always been one to bottle up my emotions. Throughout the last number of years, that's changed a little bit, and I think part of that is the way I think, or majority of that is the way I think. It went from such a negative aspect of life, and that doesn't mean, oh, I want to kill myself, or I want to hurt myself, or I want to hurt anybody else, but just a negative aspect of, you know what, I'm going to do something but never follow through with it. I'm going to go to work, go to a job that I hate, and continue because I'm comfortable. um I'm literally the prototype for that, I guess you can say. um I do think that us as a whole, and I do mean people in general, but especially minorities, we do need to speak up, and we do need to put things out there on Front Street sometimes, because like it's okay to cry, it's okay to be hurt, it's okay to, like, you can't be unattached with your emotions, because your emotions is part of what runs you, runs who you are. You know, you have logic and you have your emotions, and they truly do go hand in hand. um i have I have many friends, many lots of family that goes through mental depression, mental anguish. I myself have tons of doubt, tons. Like, my self-esteem is not the best, and I don't know if it ever will be, anything better than what it is currently. And I'm okay with that. Um, because you know what? I know I'm not the ugliest in the room, but I know damn well I'm not the best looking in the room. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? But when it comes to just yeah, we all needed that. When it comes to
How long is it looking?
Receipts.
They bother me because I can take this.
But I think when it comes to me being me, I understand that I'm comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
And I think that's what people need to realize more, is that you have to know you and love you before you can do anything or love anyone else.
That's very true.
And like this podcast is a perfect example. I tried doing something before, it didn't work out, and a lot of that was the doubt in myself. And honestly, without you three, I don't know if I necessarily would have been able to find the strength or find the mental capacity to do the things that I do for this podcast. And I thank y'all to high heaven for it, because like I said, without y'all, there without any all pun intended, without any corner, there is no four corners without any of us. You know what I mean? So, I mean, we've had personal conversations. I mean, we all have, you know what I mean? We've all spoken to people, we all spoken to friends who have gone through things. You know what I mean? I've had to convince somebody to stay just to convince them to believe in themselves, to keep living for their younger family members. You know what I mean? Like, to have that discussion, that's not an easy discussion to have. It is when you have a will to live, but at the same time, to try to convince somebody to continue is difficult.
Absolutely.
Especially when they're guarded, when their wall is up, whenever,
and they're very set in their beliefs about themselves and the world around them. That's incredibly difficult.
So
difficult subject to breach.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it's never easy. You know what I mean? Mental health is as important as as people claim it is. And you just have to reach out sometimes. You have to, I say this all the time, there's always somebody who's willing to listen. And you just have to you have to take that step. You just have to take that step.
You're absolutely right. I feel like there is always somebody out there listening. A lot of those things are easier said than done.
Of course.
Wrong, but just know that there is somebody out there who is willing to help you ease you along in that process of it being easier said than done.
Right.
In my own experiences, especially recently having graduated grad school, I've suffered with anxiety for a lot longer than I've even realized, getting up to that point. And that's something that's not necessarily spoken about mental health, that you can have maladies and not necessarily, again, be mentally classified as mentally ill as we know it. But
sorry to cut you off. To speak on that just for a super quick second.
Sure.
I was like that at a job once, where I didn't realize that
I don't know if it was anxiety. I don't know if it was depression. I don't know if it was anger, whatever the case may be. I wasn't happy, and I didn't realize it until I held a conversation with someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it clicked, I was like, I can't do this
Can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
You know.
a lot of that happened for me my second semester in grad school. I was 2 semesters, but had to stay in had to do an extra year basically because I withdrew because of personal problems.
Mhm.
And a lot of the anxiety that manifested itself were because of those personal problems. I was working an internship along with my general studies unpaid, and I also had a regular full-time job as well. So I was burning the candle, so to speak, at both ends,
yeah.
and did not really realize what this was doing to my allostatic load, like mentioned earlier, because I'm assuming many others here, like was stated before, I always thought that I dealt with stress relatively well,
Right.
like
Right.
I just bottle it up and poof, it's gone. But little did I know around this time, 2 years ago, I had a major panic attack. Never suffered one before, so I didn't know what was going on. And it really, really shook me to my core. Like it was the first time I can honestly say, because I didn't know what was going on. I did not know whether I was dying at that moment.
Mhm.
And it really forced me to confront my own mortality as a human being. And that can be a very harrowing experience. Like
Right.
faced with the fact that something one doesn't necessarily normally, quote unquote, thinks about is their own death,
Yeah.
and for it to suddenly come about in such a jarring manner, it really, really, really shook me to my core. So I decided at that moment to take some time away from my studies. I withdrew from my internship and my studies and just worked on focusing, working my position in my job and working on me really, just getting to know like what triggers were and
Mhm.
educating myself basically on myself.
Right.
Um, I've learned a lot about myself in that spare time, but the main thing that I learned is you don't necessarily have to be classified as mentally ill to be mentally distressed.
Right.
I learned that, and with the help of these three amazing gentlemen who I know I can come to with anything, and my one of my friends who I'd say I used to date, and she was absolutely and continues to be, because we're on great terms and we're still great friends, continues to be a very, very strong pillar in my life as far as who I can turn to and who I can express myself to, and my family as well. My mom, who I talk to, my
Yep.
mom is like my best
Same.
friend. My cousins, my
We just had
uncles.
that
Yeah, we
discussion.
just had that discussion on the
Yep.
way here. And my aunt, God rest her soul, which I resonate a lot with Brandon because I was forced to face her mortality as well while she was in the hospital. And that's not an easy,
Right. Never is.
not an easy thing to do. And you're never necessarily prepared for that. But, I learned a lot about myself in the last 2 years.
Right.
And I'm happy to say that, for the first time in a long time, I'm happy with myself
Right.
as a person.
Right.
I've been able to do and listen to a lot of amazing stories and assist a lot of amazing people in that time, as well as learning about myself as well.
I just wanted to, I know I keep talking, I apologize. Excuse me. I just wanted to say something that affects me. Yeah. Something that affects me a lot is that whole bottling up situation. And yes, even sometimes, even when you do have that communication, it's still very difficult to let it go.
Right.
And I was and still am infamous for bottling things up so much.
That happens to me too.
It's like a
That's
soda. You know
it's
what I
a
mean? You
it's
shake the
a
soda so much,
that's
it
really a
builds pressure.
detriment to, like, not a detriment, but it's what's the word I'm looking for? It really is a like a key for like self-doubt in
Right,
general.
exactly.
It's very hard to
Exactly.
let go of
Right.
that concrete thinking, for
Right.
example, that one may not be good enough to do
Right.
something, or one will fail if they
Right.
try to
I
do
can-
something,
I
or
think-
something is
definitely
set in
I can
stone.
resonate with that.
Mhm.
I think we
Like,
all can.
the-
I think that's
the
a very
constant-
human thing.
Yeah,
to
the
do,
constant cycle
deal
of
with.
doubt in
like,
which,
even now, like still trying, like, sorry to cut you off, but like still trying to, like,
to piece things together.
To keep
Trying
it together.
The
Keep it
fact
together,
that,
piece
you
together.
feel
Yeah.
like it won't
Yeah,
come
like
together.
I'm always sitting. I'm like, everybody, even Striker knows, and Striker's known me here in this room for the longest. He
Mhm.
knows
Yeah.
me.
That's why I was quiet that whole time.
I'm literally my biggest critic.
Right.
Same here. There's a lot of
Right.
parallels, I
I've
think, that we all share.
I've always like, even when something good is happening, I doubt it.
Yep.
I doubt
Absolutely.
myself to
You try to
always.
keep you try to keep yourself in the center of realism.
I guess it's a sense of realism, but maybe it's just like this fantasy of like I've been so everybody else
But it
sees me as like this
may not
perfection.
Even,
Right,
it may
but
not
there-
even
but-
be
but-
realism in the sense that it's a cultivated and crafted image
Right.
based not only
right.
on society but the expectations that we
Yeah.
have of ourselves
Yeah,
and
right,
the
I guess.
and what we
Right, and-
think the expectations
Yeah,
of
it might-
others are.
And it
you
might
know?
not necessarily even be perfection more than it is just the image that somebody else has for you.
Yeah.
Right.
I just wanted to say with that whole bottom up situation, that ain't people need to understand that bottling up things. I'm not going to sit here and say it's okay, but you need an outlet, because
Yeah.
once you blow up, and once again, like my mother, my mother said a long time ago that my theme song should have been "Party Up" by DMX, because he's like, y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Part of that is because of the bottling up.
Yeah.
Because when I blow up, and it's bad.
Exactly.
It's very bad. It might not be destructive,
But
you
it's
know,
bad.
like you might punch a wall, like that's whatever. But like, it's very ugly.
Right.
And once again, communicate with someone. You can try to, and like you said, you could try to communicate with somebody who doesn't necessarily understand,
Mhm.
and that could be fine. Don't get me wrong. That could be absolutely fine, because if they're there for you, then great.
That's just all that
Then that's
matters.
awesome. But when you speak to somebody who understands the things like bottling up, the things that you go through,
Mhm.
or something similar to it, it's just so much easier to let all of that out.
I would want people to like just understand and realize that, you know, for those that are dealing with someone, you have a village. You believe it or not, the
Right.
people that really care about you and actually reach out to you and make sure that you're all right, that's part of your village.
Right.
So even though, yes, you're bottling everything up, it's like that's where you got to put the pride aside.
Yep.
Put the ego aside and just be like, yo, let your village in.
And even for those who unfortunately
Don't
may
have
not have that, just realize that it's okay not to be okay.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's okay
You
to
know,
not be okay.
You'd have to
Take-
keep that strong.
There-
image
and also-
24/7.
If you
excuse
need
me.
a minute, take a minute.
And there's always help. They have hotlines that you can call. There's always
Absolutely.
somebody, whether they're paid for it or not, there's always somebody who's there to listen.
Troy, if you'd like to interject with any thoughts that you may have, go right ahead.
Just coming from a personal place of being a pillar or a strong person for their whole life.
Mhm.
Like my parents are old. My dad's 80 plus, my mom 60 plus. Like they're old. I have never met my grandparents. My grandparents have never seen me or even know I existed, because I'm pretty much a last child. So to have, extended family that y'all are close to, God bless y'all, because I have not been afforded that.
Mm-hmm.
My parents are basically my grandparents and my parents in one, pretty much for their
Right.
age group.
Right.
But to have to come from a family where I have to, end up being a breadwinner, where I have to be the middleman for everything, where I have to be, the strong person in the house because everybody comes to me for everything.
Mhm.
It does become burdensome.
Right.
There's
When-
night side.
I'm sorry. It's kind of like you end up being a father figure at a young age without
Pretty
having
much.
the kids.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
When I tell you my parents are old, I started at the very young age of 6.
Mm.
I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was helping doing all the stuff, and I was heavy lifting, all that stuff. That was me.
Yeah.
I won't bring any negative spins on my family, because I come from a family where, whatever happens home stays home.
We
So-
all, but every
I-
Yeah,
family
we
has
respect that.
issues.
Absolutely.
Right.
Every
But every
family
family
has
has issues.
issues.
I will personally say that every
openly talk
family
about
has
that.
issues. But, to come from a place where, things should have been better.
Right.
Emotionally,
Right.
people just, as you said, bottle stuff in. I've dated people who bottle stuff in,
Mhm.
where it was hard for them to even come to me honestly and say, oh, you're fucking up. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. Or even to say, oh, I didn't like that you did this. Can we speak about that?
Mhm.
It's hard in terms of pride. Pride is something that runs very well in a lot of the circles that I've been in. Not this circle here, but, just people I've dated, my family and stuff like that. So to be the one that is in the center of everything and is the one that's bold and say, what you're doing is wrong.
Right.
I'm not gonna hold any weight in, or because when stress comes to me mentally, and I stress mentally because a lot of my strength is up here.
Mm-hmm.
If this is gone for me, that's it.
Yeah.
I have to keep my sanity at some point. A lot of people will say it's selfish. It's not a selfish thing.
No, it's
not
you
a
have to take
selfish
care of
thing
you
at all.
first.
It's not a selfish thing at all to be selfish for yourself.
Self-care. Self-care is never
important.
selfish.
Yeah, right.
Make sure that you
Self-care
always,
is most important.
Right.
It's
You have to,
it's essential.
especially in a situation in which the word you use to describe yourself is like a pillar. You have to make sure that you do self-care.
Right.
You will go crazy, number one.
Yeah.
And two, you won't be able to be a pillar anymore.
Right.
And be
Exactly.
serviceable to
Right.
other people
Yeah, you're just
as
you.
you want to.
Exactly.
You don't take care of yourself.
But then, you also feel that, others are, I wouldn't say taking advantage, but others don't necessarily put you in that position either mentally.
right.
And that kind of feels,
Mhm.
that's a weight on me.
Right.
It's be taken
Because
you don't want to be
expect me
taken
to be-
advantage of.
Absolutely.
But you expect, so for example, you would expect me to be the one to set everything up. You'd be me the one to, I have to have my responsibilities,
Right.
but nobody else has the responsibilities to follow that. So it kind of sucks to be that as the youngest person in the family to have to deal with that.
Right.
And, a lot of opportunities were missed, from, me going to school. I went to college for 7 years. I didn't get shit for it. I didn't get my associates. I didn't get my bachelor's. I didn't get my master's, anything. And I'm still kicking
It's okay.
myself.
You went to
for it.
college.
Right. But still, I'm just saying, I've been there for 7 years and I
Yeah.
still didn't get anything. Whereas, if I really followed my route, I could have been graduated by
Right.
now.
Right.
Instead of trying to please other people or try to, make everybody else happy because, they expect this of me. No, I've been expected to be something my whole life and it's in somebody else's image. I
Mhm.
don't rock like that at all. I feel especially when it comes to mental health, being yourself is always key.
Right.
Being
true to yourself.
Be true to yourself, excuse me. People care too much about what other people feel, about
Mhm.
what they feel how you feel in the moment. And then if whoever sticks by you, no matter what, are the people you keep close.
Right.
Because if they can't deal with you when you have that breakdown, if they can't deal with you at your lowest points, they don't deserve to be around you.
I think that's very true.
Yeah.
true.
Absolutely.
So in terms of mental health and mental strength, you first before anybody else at that point. If you have kids,
Absolutely.
obviously, you do put your kids to the forefront, but at the same
But
time,
I'm sorry, but real quick, but we have to wrap this up fairly soon.
right.
But speaking as a father,
Right.
even with my daughter,
Mhm.
I still have to make sure I'm good, because if I'm not good for me,
Right.
I can't do anything for her.
Right.
It's very
And
true.
I'm glad you said it
and-
because I was about to
yeah,
say it, but I'm glad you said it.
because I know how my daughter feels about me. And if I'm depressed, if I'm somewhere in a corner, if I'm not me, and I'm not, speaking ill of anyone else's kids, but I have a very smart and intuitive child. Like she might be an empath, to be completely honest with you, but like she knows, she has a big heart. And I've seen that time and time and time again. And she's only 6. Like my daughter will come to me and be like, "Daddy, are you okay?" I can't sit there and lie to her if I'm not all right. You know what I mean? You parents, especially parents, please, I'm begging you to make sure that you're good, because I can't say your child can't thrive without you, but especially if they're younger, you're their parent. You have to make sure that you're okay. If you're not happy at that job, don't go home and take it out on them. If you're not happy with your relationship, please don't go home and take it out on them. Your kids are innocent until proven not.
Right.
Until they fuck up. Like, just straight up. So please, I beg of you, please take care of yourself so that you can take care of the people who care about you.
Yep.
Did you have anything else, man?
I mean,
Sorry to cut you off about
in
that.
the essence of time, it's not much, but I will reiterate: definitely take care of your mental health individually before you can think of a grand scale of taking care of everybody else. Take care
Right.
of you first,
Right.
and then just like I would say like your aura. You take care of your aura first, and then everybody else will basically get attracted.
Unless you're a
to
Knicks
you.
fan, then we're just screwed. We're screwed.
like me. But
Me
we
too.
won't go into
Me
that.
too.
It's okay.
It's tough.
We'll have another mental health episode.
Shut up, Brandon. Nobody asked you,
No,
Brandon.
like-
Your time is over. Cut his mic. Cut his mic.
Don't do that.
Cut his mic.
Done.
But as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, you know, even when we have such a serious topic like this, we can always come back to a laugh.
Mhm.
And
And
that's
this
the
is-
beauty of, you know,
Absolutely.
just having us as a four corners,
right.
you know?
Right.
That's what makes this
Always
work.
find a friend circle. Always find a friend. It doesn't matter if it's one or if it's 5 or however many people. As long as
Unless
those
you're me
people
and you
are
have
there.
like 500.
I mean, if you got
Too many
500,
friends.
if you
Way
can really
too
say you
many.
have 500 friends, then they're probably not really your friends.
I mean,
but
no, listen,
find-
500 is
find-
a number.
They're close enough.
But
Fine. all I'm
Right?
trying to say is
You wish me a happy birthday.
can name
Sean.
find people who love you for you.
Right.
Find people who are always willing to see the best of you and are always invested in the best interest of you.
Find people who challenge you to be a better you.
Right.
As well as that.
Right.
As well as that.
With that said, just want to leave this episode of the podcast with just a couple of thoughts, especially with the uncertainty in today's
Is this your
society.
Jerry Springer final thought?
Yes,
Sweet.
it's my final thought. With the uncertainty in today's society, given COVID-19, you know, and the economic hardship that it's brought, the physical hardship, and with those, the mental hardship that it's brought, I think it's very important that we stress an overall message of community and to make sure that, you know, you're not only there for yourself, but the people in your community as
Right.
well. It's funny that you mentioned Jerry Springer's final thought because every show he has that final thought.
He
It's like
does.
the only serious part of
Yeah.
the show.
Fact.
And he always ends it with the quote, be good to yourself and each other.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that I would like to stress, especially in this especially in this time of hardship,
November of
uh,
2020. Y'all
right,
know.
November of 2020. This is the 8th month of, especially with this country that we live in, America, dealing with the COVID-19 crisis. Make sure that you are good to not only yourself, but each other as well. And to make sure that you wear a mask and make sure that you are doing your part in the community to keep each other safe.
Yep.
With that said, this has been the big stretch, and I feel comfortable speaking for K Marvel, The Quiet Storm, 98.7 Kiss FM. And of course, Striker Dragoon himself. I feel comfortable in saying this has been another episode of the Four Corners of Commentary. Thank you for listening, and remember to give us a like, share, and subscribe.